Hello, my friends. Welcome to Shoulder Tap. I am Jack. I'm joined today by Ben, my favorite risk manager. Ben, how are you doing on this Monday?
Back in the good graces. Back to favorite risk manager. I'm good, Jack. I'm feeling rejuvenated, well rested. Had a nice weekend, and ready to get back to it. Seen a lot of activity today, despite not a tremendous amount of activity in the equities, which is usually our most traded products. But lots of trades being placed and lots of movement in the live account balances. Slightly green overall, but not a lot of weight one way or the other, red or
hmm
green. Give you a quick rundown of those live traders. P&Ls, we've got the house account down 487 at the moment. Rips hit the DLL today. Deanna's up 1,200, almost $1,300. Nice big green P&L for her today. Dakota's up 1,700. Yusuf down 2,500 after being up almost 4 grand this morning. Alexander up 4,600. Jonathan B up 2,500. Nicholas V up 8,600. And Susan, yes, that's Susan, up 7,300 today. Travis up 5 grand. Jerome up 4,100. And Sean up 3,500. Jack, I saw a bit of a reaction there. I told you I have an update on Susan, but we haven't been talking about her much. At least I haven't heard a tremendous amount. Do you have anything to comment on before I give this update?
Well, yes, I do. First, I wanted to say with the house account, we still are, full transparency, we still are short one NQ, which I believe right now is maybe 10 points in our favor. There's a stop in there and there's a take profit. We'll keep you updated on that throughout the day. Susan, Susan. So, have we talked to Susan today about that 7K she's up right now?
Yes, we have talked to Susan about that. More so than most traders, we're going to make sure that she locks in at least 5 grand worth of that. It's time to put up a green day. Jack, as you know from monitoring the trade reports, haven't seen one of those. You did complete the, I think, as you referred to it, the roulette odds for, hitting
We're past it.
36, 36. Yeah, now we're past it, but hitting 36 multiples of the daily loss limit, only to then hit the daily loss limit 36 times afterwards. Lots of running to go nowhere, basically, and we want to see Susan stack up some green days. That's not the entire story. For those who are not as closely familiar with Susan's trajectory in this live account, um, she has been up considerably several times and has had some relatively terse conversations with the risk team about making sure that that doesn't happen again. So once again, we find ourselves where Susan's got thousands of dollars of profit, and we're going to make sure she locks that in today. So positive development, stacking a winning trading day in her favor, no matter what happens, and she may add on to that. She may take the 5,000 minimum, whatever the case is. She'll have a green day, and we're happy about that. So that's your quick Susan updates. I know we haven't done one of those in a while.
Yeah, I got something to add to that. One second.
Sure.
Doing some math in the background. Okay. One thing I want to update on this is please take that $5,000. Even since when I stopped talking about this, when there was a day that she was up 17K and then hit the DLL, um, every day since then, she has at some point been up money and flat. Even yesterday, up 2,400 and flat. Here's a stat that I have no basis for. Okay. Like, I don't know what would be normal for this, but this is crazy. So Susan's average high P&L, and in our stats, that means high P&L the day when you were flat. Okay. Her average high daily P&L is 2,600. Quick math, she's been there on my list for 38 days. That means, and this would be impossible to do, but if she exited on her highs, her account balance would be near $100,000 right now. Okay. Now, I don't know I've never ran this stat with people. I don't know if we ran this across a bunch of combines, what the average you would be below that figure in your account. But let me tell you something. It wouldn't be what her current account balance is right now. Um, like 75% of that is gone. And even if you eliminate the 41K day, that's what I was just doing the math on right there. If you eliminate that 41K day, that is 37 days of trading with an average high daily P&L flat of up $1,400 and losing the DLL every single one of those days.
It's a very interesting
Crazy.
way of looking at those numbers, Jack. That's a good example. You know, we do all sorts of different calculations from these trade reports. It's a good reminder for traders to go in and work your own numbers. Like, look at what your average daily P and L high is, what your P and L low is. You know, what decisions are you making at those benchmarks? You know, try to take an emotional and mental inventory as you go along. You know, what was going through your head when you were at that mark during that day, and try and better identify your emotions and manage them appropriately as you go along, because Susan's one of those examples where far too often, the greed kind of just takes over, and what is $8,000 realized could be $10,000 realized, and that is a road that you can go down forever, and will ultimately lead in you losing your live account. So we're working with Susan, making sure she doesn't hit that mark. But yeah, interesting take there, Jack.
Yeah, we'll go to the cards. I am convinced. I've never seen the fills on that day, but I'm convinced only the bell stopped her from stopping at 42 grand or whatever that one day. She'd still be in that trade. She could be
Yeah,
up $10 million right now in that trade,
yeah.
or probably
Only the session.
rocket TLL.
If only the session hadn't ended.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
All
let's
right.
pull up our first trading card. We're actually going to circle back to 1 week ago. We featured Gavril on Shoulder Tap last Monday, and as of today, has hit the max loss limit and actually lost his live account. Hence the tombstone there on the trading card. So, I want to do somewhat of an autopsy, and it's really interesting to go through what has happened since the last time he was featured, since the last time his trading card was up on your screen. And these numbers were relatively different at that time. Now, part of that is we only had 7 trading days that we were looking at last week. Today, we have a total of 12, which is still not a tremendous sample size, but it does give you a window into what has taken place. You're welcome to go back and watch that segment, that shoulder tap segment from last Monday, to get an idea of what we were discussing, where Graville was at, and then kind of what the diagnosis was, what our recommendations were. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to get those implemented. Trading is difficult. We want to give him some grace, but I think there's a lot to learn from this card, especially what took place as we got closer to that max loss limit. At the bottom of this trading card, you'll see some might be considered some harsh commentary, but it's the reality of what took place in this account. Reveal was trading at his worst when he was closest to that daily loss limit. Last Monday, we had noted, that he had taken a payout, $2,000. Good on you, great. Always pay yourself if you have the opportunity, but recognize what that might be doing to your account balance relative to how much room you have, and how hitting that daily loss limit could really put you in a bad spot. So,
Hmm.
I believe the exact wording was the daily loss limits can wipe out the remaining balance quickly, and that's pretty much exactly what happened. Unfortunately, the trajectory took a sharp downturn here almost immediately after the payout was taken, which is also interesting. Payout was taken on the 21st. On the 22nd, we had a green day of $700, and then 3 daily loss limits, followed by what was less than the daily loss limit, but ultimately hit the max loss limit today. Um, you can see on this card that this trader is trading the E-mini NASDAQ and then the micro version of that product as well. I would have liked to see, Jack, when I toggled to the micros, to have seen micros being traded as that balance was lower. They actually stopped. This trader stopped trading the micros on the 21st. That was the last day that they were traded. So if you're trading, it's a really healthy reminder. If you're trading a product of one of the big four at Topstep, being the S&P 500, Nasdaq, E-minis, or the gold or crude oil contracts, the full size, you would be it would be a good idea to familiarize yourself with the micro versions of those contracts, what the size of those are, and utilize them when you find yourself in a bad spot. I'll give just a quick shout out to Fatima, who a lot of our audience is familiar with. Fatima at one point really salvaged her live account from earlier version of it this year, and she was down to around, I want to say, $500 or $600 remaining in the account balance, and was able to bring it back. So it's not as though you can't. It's really important to try and save that account if at all possible. I think a lot of people kind of get the F-its. I'm not sure if that's what happened here, but end up getting the F-its as they get closer to that account. Just say, you know what, I'm going to throw this trade on, and if it works, then great. If not, well, I'll go back to the combine. It's not a great long-term mentality. It's not a winning mentality. It's certainly not going to make you money in the aggregate. I think it's important to shout that out, Jack. I've got a little bit more to say here, but what kind of thoughts do you have just from what we've outlined so far?
Well, first, I just wanted to comment that we did break new session lows in the NASDAQ. So following that, because we got a live account trade going. Still haven't filled that gap, which is down around 482 in the NASDAQ. Yeah, I mean, you can't know for sure. Well, I think you can know for sure that this was a case of efforts at the end because I think, like I've said a million times, you can't control whether you win or lose money, right? But by and large, you can always control how much you're willing to lose. And the last 3 days were just, I mean, they were just, and I don't have the last day, but it probably wasn't much money. It was just the rest of the account. But yeah, three daily loss limits essentially with probably somewhere around $3,000 in the account, losing 1,000 a time. That's probably the efforts. They got that $2,000 payout, but you know, interesting card because this is officially a club DLL card. Um, we see it time and time again. Just because you can lose $1,000 doesn't mean that that's right for you. I mean, this isn't financial advice, but I think that's decent financial advice. I mean, just because you can do anything doesn't mean you should do it or it's right for your account. What's right for your account depends on the size of your account and your risk tolerance. So, yeah, I don't know. It certainly seems like it, especially trading those NQs.
It does seem that way, and if you peel it back even further, you're looking at the average, excuse me, the winning trade percentage and consecutive wins and losses columns there on the trade report. Things really go south those last the three most recent trading days, where I don't know if it's just patience or not seeing the market well, or it truly is just the heck with it. I'll just throw these trades on. Really poor win percentages and profitability. Only a couple of winning trades, single winning trade actually in 3 days trading. So yeah, that's a poor performance, and unfortunately, it is somewhat common to see. This is not an uncommon phenomenon of uh, you know having particularly bad performance as you get closer to proximity. So hopefully, not just Reveal, but everyone is able to learn a little bit from that. Just take a step back. Be surprised what scaling down, to 1/5 or 1/10 of your normal size, and then putting together some winning trades and winning days can do for you. You can recover some significant account balance. Most importantly, get yourself back in the right frame of mind for trading, and then kind of scale back up from there. So, interesting card, and certainly something we can take uh, lessons away from. Anything else here, Jack, before we move on to the next one?
No, I think that's enough for now. I mean, story old as time there. But yeah, I mean, you'll never lose an account if you stick strictly to only losing a set percent per day.
That is
I mean,
mathematically
take it to the
correct.
yeah, take it to the extreme. Yeah, there'll be slippage. You'll eventually lose it, and it's not probably worth it to try and trade futures with something with $10 in your account. But
Right.
we certainly don't. That's the biggest thing for this whole show. I just encourage people: just some percent of the money you have available to trade, set that as the percent, and if you make money, that's going to increase. If you lose money, it's going to decrease, and you will hold that account for a very long time. even if you suck, you could lose every day. You're still going to hold that account for a very long
Right.
time. So, all right,
Yeah,
who we
most
got
definitely.
next in line?
Yeah, interesting that you say that. Let's pull up the trading card for Bhagwanpreet next. Bhagwanpreet is someone that we've featured before, but not in some time. And trader's been trading this account for 83 days in the live account, 100K account size, and Bhagwanpreet actually just hit his 1 year anniversary with TopStep 2 days ago. So, congrats on your anniversary in our program. And having been in the program for that amount of time and to be in the live account for 4 months is kind of impressive just on its own. Um, and there is pretty much a treasure trove of data to pull out of here because of that volume of trading days and trading information. Let's start with the average daily P&L. I think tells a relatively accurate tale here. Just a very, very, very slow lead in this account. We have some negative drift as we're going along. We're not seeing you really zoom out, a positive P&L curve. But there are a lot of positives to take away from this information. Don't want to bury the lead here. Bhagwanpreet has paid himself 7 different times. He's taken 7 payouts for a total of $8,500. That's awesome, and I love seeing the consistency of the payouts. It doesn't have to be a large payout. You don't have to take out 50% of the account balance each time, but steadily and consistently paying yourself for your efforts in trading, I think, is incredibly important. So, Augerpreet's doing a great job of that. The big issue here, and the issue with everyone, but I think the main point of focus is studying, whatever strategies that Bhagwanpreet is deploying. Studying those strategies and looking at the market conditions and trying to figure out where you can squeeze out some edge from either the winning trade percentage or from the reward to risk that you are putting on. That has to be the marriage between win rate and reward over risk has to be a happy marriage. They've got to get along, and they've got to ultimately show profitability. Because in this case, they're showing very slight losses over time, and I think that there is somewhere in there. It's a lot of trade data for us to look at. The exact strategy would be difficult to determine without first looking at the fills from every single day, and then second, a long conversation with Bogger about what he's doing. So, that's not really feasible for our team to dive that deeply into him. What we need to do is, more specifically, what he needs to do is look at that information for himself and say, okay, what are my best trades? What's working really well right now? What are the current market conditions? And how can I lean into my strengths and reel in some of my weaknesses? Am I over trading? And am I too cozy with the daily loss limit? I believe that is one of the weaknesses of this trader, and this particularly the trading in this account. Right now, he's on a bit of a losing streak, but even when he's not, on an active losing streak, usually a lot of the positives that are coming out of this account are getting wiped away by a daily loss limit or daily loss limit plus a smaller losing day. It's difficult to have positive growth in that account balance, especially to escape the payouts that you're taking along the way to ultimately improve in the way that I'm sure Bogwan would want to improve trading. So even if it's as simple as cutting the daily loss limit in half, saying I'm not going to lose more than $1,000, I think that could be very productive given the winning trade percentage and the winning day percentage. If you can keep those numbers at roughly the same level while cutting your worst losing days in half, you're going to very quickly turn that average daily P&L number from negative to positive, because with the current winning day percentage and then the average winning day, you can be positive if you're losing $1,000 or less on average. But
Mhm.
currently, excuse me, $500. I had the wrong card up. Forgive me. Yeah, in the 100K account, it would be 2,000. So you need to lose $1,000 or less and then your average winning day is greater than 1,000, and your win rate is higher than 50%. So that's a very easy calculation. You're going to be profitable with that formula. So that would be my recommendation for, first point of attack is minimizing the losers, but the other side of that is being able to squeeze more out of your winners as well. So I think there's a lot to unpack for Bogwan Pete himself. And Jack, I'm curious. There's obviously a lot of information to dump on you, but anything you can pick out of this, maybe from the averages or otherwise?
I mean, you gotta say, I mean, 83 days in this account, so that's a lot of data. And so you can kind of deduce at this point that's like, okay, what I'm doing isn't necessarily working. And you're right about the loss limit. I think that there's just, for what the results are, there's too much dispersion, right, of these results. If you're coming up to a grand total, and for instance, that with that 58 number, he doesn't have these huge days, but he has made 7 grand in a day before. Yeah, if you make 7 grand tomorrow, then he's scratch. But that's still, if your grand total average is minus $59 per day on 83 days trading, uh, that's not ideal. But what makes it less ideal is you don't want to see that happen on like losing 2 grand, making 3 grand, losing 2 grand, making 1 grand, losing. It's just like too many swings for basically what amounts to break. There's easier ways to break even, right?
Right.
So I completely agree with cutting down with this many days. Even if you cut your loss limit to like $1,500, I bet that would make a big difference. I would cut it more because 83 days with that expected value, I think you cut it in half and see what you could do at least, right? And once again, bring it up. If you do well, no one's saying you can't raise it again, but yeah, too much sound and fury for nothing here, right? So, and I would almost say differently. If he was someone that had like the occasional like $30,000 day or something, then it's heavily dependent on like will they do this. But there's a pretty established pattern here, and it's not working. So size down, my friend. Size down.
Yeah, and to his credit, up money today at last check, up about $800. So obviously the session's not over, but I think it starts with that. Figuring out when you're in profit, what you're not willing to give back, because although it hasn't happened a ton, Bogwanpreet has been green and then gone red. So those little things. That's the low hanging fruit to me. What is the easiest kind of change that could be made with the biggest impact? Reducing the losses is number one, and then really lean into, maybe segment out, if you haven't done this already, your strategies compared to the market conditions, and when is it time to put a little bit more on for an ideal setup given the market conditions, and when is it time to size down, or treat it more like a B quality setup. So lots of room here, but that's where we will leave it today, Jack.
Yeah, let's leave it there. We got group coaching next with Robert and Hogue, and then a whole afternoon of Muhammad. And Marie's going to be there too in the 1 o'clock hour. Muhammad, of course, is one of our top funded traders and an incredible personality. I'll say one last thing on that. I feel like because people pay for these accounts, and one of the things you're paying for is the ability to trade a certain amount or have a certain loss limit. So I see a lot of these cards where it feels like I am not getting my money's worth for what I paid for unless I keep taking trades until I have used the loss on the day that I have paid for. And I think that that is self defeating because you're ultimately impairing your account. It would be like if you ate lunch, say you lived on a cruise ship and had access to the buffet every day, and you've got all you can eat buffet, right? You
Right.
may say, okay, well, I'm going to eat all this shit every day because I pay for it. I'm not getting my money's worth. But then you get type 2 diabetes, you get heart problems. And
Yeah.
yes, you did get more for your money, but you also effed yourself in the process. So don't be like that. All right. Your loss limit is your own. So that is how we'll end shoulder tap today. Ben, thanks for stopping by.
Of course, yeah. Thanks for having me. See you.
All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll be back here in just a few moments with Hogue and Robert for group coaching. Talk to you later.